Welcome to another episode of Inside IALR. We're here today to talk about a really cool program that we have here. We are very focused on STEM and education, both formally and informally, as well as sort of helping connect students to careers. And I think this program that we're about to talk about really does both of those things. The Academy for Engineering and Technology is a dual-enrollment program that we help run here in partnership with Danville Community College and Pittsylvania County Schools and Danville Public Schools. I'm here today with John Hatchett, who's the instructor for the Academy for Engineering and Technology. Caleb Pearson will be graduating by the time you hear this podcast. We'll have already graduated high school. We also have Shelita Hall, who is part of the first cohort of AET in 2016. Who is a PhD student at Norfolk State University and is also an engineering trainee at the NASA Johnson Space Center. So thank you all for being here. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
So John, we'll start with you. Obviously, we know big picture, dual enrollment program, students getting credits, and it's focused on engineering and technology. But tell us a little bit more about what is the AET program?
AET was really designed to kind of expose students to engineering as a possible career path. We do that through transferable engineering credits to college and universities, but also through experiential learning opportunities with local STEM professionals, to where you have an opportunity to kind of pull the curtain back and kind of see what engineering is like from the real world basis versus in the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
Too often people will hear engineering and think, they think they know what engineering is until they actually get into the field, well, unless they have a family member there. So if you're good in math and science, a lot of times, hey, you must be an engineer, you need to go that pathway. But it really boils down to the problem solving aspect of it. And that's where we try to help fill that gap to kind of make sure that you're able to do problem solving before you get into college, to where you're now taking on a financial risk, and with such a high attrition rate with engineering majors in the first place, that you can go in there with your feet on the ground running mm-hmm. and learn that this is the right path for me.
Mm-hmm. What Mr. Hatchett said, it really just does boil down to the problem solving aspects of engineering. AET is actually what got me interested into engineering as a career choice. It showed me that, I've always enjoyed math and sciences, but AET showed me how it could be applied into an actual career field and not just used as a little hobby, hey, solve a couple problems, but you could actually use this for real world applications. And just learning that showed me that's what I want to do for the rest of my life. And so, and what he said about the problem solving, a popular quote that Mr. Hatchett would say throughout the years, I don't want to teach you what to think, I want to teach you how to think. And that's a very, very important part of engineering, because if you know how to think, how to solve problems, every single engineering field, whether it be civil, mechanical, industrial, every single one of them, you're going to have to know how to solve a problem. And so teaching you how to think is an incredibly important part of that. But it's just, AET is really it's a great gateway to engineering possibilities and possible career choices.
No, I definitely agree with the aspect of learning how to think and in the applied aspect, not just learning a bunch of equations and repeating them and regurgitating them on a test, but actually looking at these equations and saying, this is exactly what you could use these equations for in a real life setting. So AET for me was definitely a learning curve. It was rigorous. It was difficult, but I really appreciate the experience, because I can say going into chemistry at Norfolk State, I was well ahead of my class in learning how to think and learning how to just handle STEM in general. So I think it was very beneficial.
So, and Caleb, I know you just graduated. Shelita, you graduated in 2016. We'll start with, since you just we're talking about your experience. Tell us a little bit about kind of where you went after AET, and how did AET really, and you talked about that a little bit, but how did AET really prepare you for what came next?
I went to Norfolk State. I really wanted to do chemical engineering, but they only had chemistry. I was originally interested in chemical engineering, actually because my mother still works at Procter & Gamble, the biggest cosmetic industry, and I was really interested in cosmetic engineering and cosmetic science, but ended up majoring in chemistry and finishing in that, with a kind of concentration in materials engineering, which is what I'm getting my PhD in now. Yeah, and so I guess all of those experiences and my undergraduate internships led me to get a regular internship at NASA. And I did a lot of research in space radiation for long-term space flight. And then, so now I'm currently a civil servant. So a government employee at NASA, NASA's Johnson Space Center, and I am still a part of the Space Radiation Department. So AET was definitely like set the foundation for where I am today.
Space radiation. That sounds sounds pretty sweet. And Caleb, for you, what's next, and how do you envision that the AET program helped prepare you for whatever that is?
Well, so how AET works, it is a dual enrollment program, and so it provided me with a lot of the classes and credits that I would need for an engineering degree through DCC, which is where I plan to go to DCC for a associate's engineering degree, and then to transfer up to Virginia Tech. But in giving me those classes, it gave me a little head start on it, and so by taking college classes while still in high school, I was able to learn. It's difficult to talk, but I was able to learn more advanced subjects before college, and so in setting that foundation, like Shelita said, AET really was a foundation for moving on to an engineering career and a greater education in engineering.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. And as someone, I was in no way interested in engineering, but as someone who did dual enrollment in high school, I think that part of it's really important. And just to back up from John, you had mentioned, Caleb, you had mentioned earlier that this is the first 3 hours of your day for the last 2 years. So just structurally, how this program works is students from Danville and Pittsylvania County schools are bussed in every morning and spend the first 3 hours of their day here focusing on engineering, math, and English courses. Those are the three primary ones. And then during those 2 years, they pick up 30 college credits. That's right?
Currently, there are 31.
31. So during those 2 years, each student that participates picks up 31 college credits, which is about a full year. So that's structurally that's sort of how it works. John, we've had 9 cohorts. You've been here since the beginning. So talk a little bit about how this program has stayed the same and how it has changed during those years.
Well, I think the focus has always still been on students being exposed to engineering as a pathway that way. Now, it has changed kind of a little bit from the very beginning, where when I first came in 2013, it was really only at the time at New College Institute in Martinsville, Virginia, in a partnership at the time with Virginia State University. And during that first year I was working with them, we started developing the program here with the Institute for Advanced Learning and Research and making sure we had a pathway where we had both math and English as well to partner with the engineering program that way. But it still came to the idea that we wanted to expose students to the possibility of these type of jobs in the area, that we wanted them to stay. We wanted them to be here. We wanted to continue to grow this area because Southside Virginia, Southwest Virginia, where we're kind of devastated, of course, with manufacturing job losses over the last few decades. And now we've transitioned from that to more of an advanced manufacturing aspect of it, to where a lot of it's automation, but you still need the highly qualified, trained workforce to be able to control that, to know what's going on and problem solve on the fly. And to do that, you need to expose students in an early time period and let them know what's capable for them to have here so that they want to stay here. And that they actually have the ability themselves, because some of them, I've had students come to me thinking that they wanted to be an engineer, and then after the first year or so, they're like, yep, definitely not me. I've had a lot of fence sitters that didn't know one way or the other and chose one way or the other. Then I've had some students that come in here and say, engineering's not for me at all, but then by the end of the 2 years, like, you know what, I have an aptitude for this. So
those students, just because it was a dual enrollment program, is that more why they were interested?
Well, yes, in a lot of cases, it's, they're kind of pushed to credits when they think it's a shorter way through college, that they can save money in that way. But with a lot of STEM type majors in general, you're still going to probably be in college for 3 to 4 years, and especially something like an engineering major because it's so concentrated. I like to kind of say engineering bachelor's degree are more along the lines of a 5.5 year program condensed into 4, because you're starting right away taking the engineering programs your freshman year. While a lot of other majors, you kind of start more of a general studies aspect of it. But if you want to start in engineering to graduate in 4 years, you're starting right away with engineering classwork. So this gives them that kind of a jump start, whether or not they can get those out the way or really realize, hey, this is for me without the additional stresses of leaving school, leaving their parents' home, going into college, and then being confronted with this huge workload demand. So kind of prepare them that way. You're getting the same rigor and relevance that you would in the coursework, but in a way to help bridge the gap between being a high school student to being an actual college student in engineering, where you have me for an hour and a half every single day for 2 years, okay? So that's 7.5 hours a week for 40 weeks, essentially. Well, for 36 weeks or so. But it gives you an opportunity to ask questions. I'm able to go over more examples, really help you understand that you can do this, and that's kind of the whole point. My number one goal is to be your advisor. I would love to have everybody go in there to be an engineer in the future. I know that's not necessarily going to be the case,
Right.
but I want you to do what's best for you. And if you decide engineering or STEM's not right for me and you want to go to a different major, hey, I'm happy for you. That's still a success story for me because I helped you find the pathway that's right for you.
That's cool what you're saying, that it's not just about funneling all of these students into engineering roles, but helping them figuring out earlier so then they're not investing the time and money in college and then realizing then. For Shelita and Caleb, for you all, and I mean, John, you can answer this too. I've heard all of you kind of talk about problem solving as one of the biggest components or biggest things that you've learned. What other either practical, like hard skills have you learned, or even soft skills? I mean, things like, you've mentioned problem solving, collaboration. What have been some of those, or what are some of those key skills that this program tries to instill?
Well, see, the math that is offered is a pre-calculus trig and a calculus class. Well, 2 different classes. And so the math aspect of it is incredibly important in engineering. And so that it gives you a great, like you said, practical skill. So knowing what equations to use in certain situations. And then as far as the actual engineering class, it's an engineering class, but we didn't exactly always learn engineering, to be honest. But that doesn't mean it wasn't important, because a lot of the time we went over, even in the first semester of the first year, we were originally taught not engineering aspects, but we were taught what is engineering, the different branches of it, how to find jobs in it, and we were taught the ethics of engineering. How to use it with a proper mindset, not abuse it, because engineering is an incredibly powerful aspect. Knowing how to manipulate technology and stuff of that aspect. And then we were also there was a project in I said our first semester where we were taught how to work with teams, and we designed. It was me and 2 other people designed a board game, and that's I think it was kind of like a breaking in, because that was just a couple weeks in. I think it was just to kind of hey, these are new people, you don't know them, but you'll work with them. And because that's an in any job, in any career field, that's an incredibly important part of it, is to understand how to work with people that you don't necessarily know, and how to build a team and how to use each person's skills to their advantage. And so me and 2 other people built a board game, and actually one of those people, Jordan Eldridge, who honestly, and that's why I said we didn't exactly learn engineering the entire time. I'm sorry, bear with me. But AET is what gave me probably the greatest friends that I have right now, just because of the people that came in weren't people in a regular base school. Not everybody wants to be there, but everybody who had applied to be at AET knew that they wanted to be at AET. Whether it was for the engineering or just for the dual enrollment credits, this was somewhere they wanted to be in the morning. They wanted to learn more, and so that kind of like-mindedness is what allowed me to meet more people. And so this specific person I was talking about, I'm still friends with them to this day. And this was like I said, this was a first few weeks into the very first semester of the first year. And to this, 2 years later, I still talk to them. And just because this program, it opens up so much opportunity for connections. And so in teaching us how to work with a team and how to make connections with people, it worked. And then also, of course, in the actual engineering class, we worked on graphing, math, just basics in engineering. And then the second semester of the first year, we did a few month-long project with other businesses. I think it was called the Now Project. And yes, in which we had businesses come to us, and this year's class also did that. Yes. But we had businesses come to us and sort of an outreach come to these students and ask us, hey, we have a problem. Is there any way you can solve this? And so I think we were in 3 to 5 person teams, 3 to 4 maybe, I don't remember. But and we had a couple months to actually have meetings, have interviews. We learned a lot of problem solving. I don't know exactly the word, but we learned how to solve the problems in a team. And it was an incredibly useful tool for just understanding how to solve the problems. And then this past year it was mainly focused on the actual aspects of engineering itself. We went over electrical, mechanical, all sorts of different types, but that's really what it's been for me. It's been incredibly useful. But
outside of working with the team and really honing in on problem solving skills, I think one of the biggest skills that I took away was learning how to and not being afraid of asking questions. I think that it was such a huge learning curve for me, and it was rigorous that I had to get over my, the inner voice, and I really learned how to ask questions and to actually work with my peers to study and work on different things. I think that aspect, it may seem small, but going into university, not being afraid of asking questions and knowing how to do that early on is definitely a skill that I had, which I feel like is kind of part of the reason why I feel like I was a little bit ahead of my peers who were not exposed to university level courses in high school. So yeah, I think that was kind of a big thing that I took away from AET. I was here every morning before class got started, and I was in the office hours every morning. And so learning how to take advantage of office hours and asking questions and working with peers is a big aspect that I took with me to university.
It's cool to hear you guys talk about this, that it's those hard engineering skills, the trigonometry or whatever. I don't understand engineering, so I'm not going to go off on a list there.
Trigonometry is a big part of it, too.
Okay, so yeah, well, okay. Sure. But also those skills that go across industry, that go across no matter what you end up doing.
And with that, I've pretty much now finished my 19th year as an educator. And years ago, there was something we came across called the 4 C's. These were key soft skills that businesses came across. Hey, what do we really want in a new employee? I might be able to train them on a technical aspect here to be able to run this type of machine, but what am I really looking for? And with those 4 C's, you essentially had collaboration, communication, creativity, and critical thinking. So with that, the collaboration aspect, working together as a team. With people you might not necessarily be best friends with, but you need to be able to work together. Communication aspect is one thing to be able to do something on your own, but to be able to communicate in either written or oral form. The creativity, there are many different ways to solve a particular problem, but what's a creative way to do it with the best resource you have? And of course, the critical thinking is the problem-solving skills. So that's kind of my overall aspect I want to kind of instill in students overall is like, hey, what are these 4 C's that can take with you no matter which career path you go to? Because these are highly sought after by businesses overall. Like, I might be able to train you in particular to do one particular job, but am I going to be able to work with you for years and years and years? Can you communicate that overall? And another thing I've always told you too, and having the correct solution is not always, having the correct answer is not always the correct solution. You've got to be able to communicate. You might have the best idea in the world, but unless you can communicate with somebody else and have somebody else to work with you and understand it, it is essentially meaningless. So being able to do something on paper, to show people your logical thought process, your steps, be able to communicate that in a logical manner so people can follow you and they're right there with you. You're now a team. You're working together versus having many different solo pods here that hopefully we can come together at some point. But we want to all work together at the same time and be able to communicate the same way.
That's cool. Just that idea of those soft skills as well as those technical skills, and this kind of brings all of that together for those people who are going to pursue engineering, like you all, or those who aren't.
Well, I mean, they're skills that are available for anybody, and no matter whether they go into an engineering major in the future or go off to another engineering major or go straight into the workforce. These are still things they're going to take from this type of program that are going to help them in the future no matter what they want to do.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, that's all the questions that I have for you guys. I think this is a really, really cool program. Like we said, we just graduating the 9th cohort, and I think it's about 25 approximately that graduate with each one. So that's, and then this is for juniors and seniors. So at any given time, there's a 50, 40, somewhere between that, students from Danville and Pennsylvania County schools that are working on this program here at the Institute. But I think, helping grow the workforce, we're very focused on that. This helps with that, focusing on STEM and education. This program that directly connects to that, and ultimately to our mission of economic transformation. As you were talking about in the beginning, John, that if we're helping draw companies here with programs like this, but also helping students want to stay. So it's definitely a great program. But that's all the questions that I have. Is there anything that you all would want to add, or anything else you think it's important that people know?
Just that I had this thought last night. I don't know why. I was going over. We were sent talking points, and I don't know why I was reviewing them because I get anxious. But anyways, so I was thinking about this, and AET has really given me all of the things. I can give it credit for might be a stretch, but all the good things that I have going for me right now. Because, see, when I originally had applied to it, I applied to not only AT, but also Governor's School and a VOTEC program for teaching. Because in my sophomore year when I applied, I originally wanted to be a math teacher. But, see, I was denied from Governor's School, but, see, that was kind of a little happy accident because I was accepted into AET and the teaching program. And, see, I was going to go for the teaching program because, see, that's what I wanted to do. But I talked to my parents about it, and they're like, well, listen, you got to understand, not only do teachers not make not making a lot of money, but the job field isn't as open as an engineering program. And my parents told me that they could see me being an engineer rather than a teacher. And so I took their advice on that, and so I went for AET. Probably the best choice I've ever made, I'm not going to lie, because it opened up an entire different window to more people, like-minded people that I can now call friends. But in my first semester of my second year, I had just lost a job, and so that summer, and I said first semester, second year, yeah. And so I was talking to one of my fellow classmates, Zach Harris, and I was talking to him that I didn't have it. At the time, I was a little low on money, and he said at the time he had worked at Chick-fil-A and said, well, why don't you just apply to Chick-fil-A? And so I did, and I got an interview, and I got accepted. And if it was, I'm going to point this out throughout the entire time. If it wasn't for me getting into AT, I would not have met Zach to that level, and I would not have talked to him about this. And so I have a great job going for me right now, and so I can give AET credit for that. But also, not only that, at Chick-fil-A, few weeks, maybe a month in, that's where I met my girlfriend. And I'm just saying, like, no, I'm
Give me
giving
credit for getting you.
I'm giving you credit for me
Drawing
finding.
lots of lines from
No,
here
I'm
to
so
here to
serious.
here.
Exactly.
All comes back to AET.
I might be reaching, but if I'm telling you right now, you know the
Matchmaker.
butterfly effect, and like that, you know, I mean, that's an incredibly important part of like engineering and physics is like the butterfly effect and like chaos theory. The most insignificant change in something can cause such exponential.
Now, when he
change.
said we don't necessarily talk about engineering all the time, this is where we get
Yeah.
into the deep in the weeds.
Yeah.
We go really into some.
Yeah, I was
interesting-
also given the superlative most likely to get a teacher off track. So, problem, I don't know, but yeah. So my girlfriend and probably the woman that I plan to, she's like amazing. The woman I plan to marry, Sam Salcido, but I honestly give AET credit for like my job, my girlfriend. Like it's crazy. But I mean, am I making
Are you going to name
sense?
a kid after me in the future?
Hey,
Don't. Caleb, don't.
but I mean, am I making sense here? Like, or am I just crazy?
I mean, if for you, all good
That's-
things come from
it's-
AET,
it's
all
your-
good things
it's
come
your
from AET,
experience.
you know?
It's your experience. Hey, that's the way you see it. It's great.
But so yeah, I just want to end with that like AET is really like it's been incredibly important in my life, and I do look forward to many more years of graduates coming out of it.
Yeah.
Same.
Anything else for you all? Do all good things come from AET?
I mean, I could say that I would, not be working for astronauts if it wasn't for AET. AET laid the foundation for every single step in my academic career. And I feel as though if I wouldn't have went through AET, I simply would not be where I am today. I wouldn't have had such a successful academic journey, and I'm very appreciative of it, and that's why I try to stay connected with John to help any way that I can with the program.
And I guess for me, it's very fulfilling. One, I get to spend time with some really great people. We get to have some conversations that you wouldn't necessarily have in a typical classroom. And while you mentioned you wanted to possibly be a math teacher and then chose engineering, well, I was actually kind of reversed to begin with that. I went to engineering and then became a math teacher and then became an engineering teacher. But overall, it gives you an opportunity to really experience life and see what it's like from other perspectives. It gives us success stories, no matter which way it goes. I mean, to be a small part of their story. It might be one little sentence in a big chapter, but it gives them an opportunity to where, hey, I love you guys to come back here. I love to speak with you guys. And you really don't get that in very other places. It's more of a community type basis here. I mean, we do talk about a whole lot of off the wall type things, which is perfectly fine, but I've tried to bring it back to the topic at hand, at least from time to time. But we have that opportunity to really expand upon something because I want you to be a lifelong learner. I want you to be enthusiastic about learning new things and experiencing new things, not necessarily being just, here's a textbook, here's what I've got to do, here's what I got to do, here's what I got to do next, but have a more of a larger picture of what your life is going to be in the future and show there are different pathways to get there. And just in general, enjoy the time that you have overall, meeting new people, having a great career pathway. In the future, you never know what's going to happen. But in my experience, engineering itself has led me to options that I wouldn't have had otherwise.
Well, I really appreciate you all taking the time to share your experiences with this program, and yeah, thanks for being here. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Megabytes IALR's on-site cafe features everyday favorites, convenient ordering options, and an eager staff ready to welcome and serve you. Our enticing menus offer something for everyone, from a fresh, well-stocked salad bar, wraps, sandwiches, and our rotating hot buffet offered on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Megabytes is open Monday through Friday from 9:15 a.m. until 1:30 p.m. To view menus and for more information, visit IALR.org/megabytes.